Have you ever wished you could go back just for a moment to a time when everything felt still, simple, and full of peace? Maybe it was a morning when you woke up without rushing, when the sunlight poured gently through the window, and your heart felt light. A morning when you whispered a quiet prayer, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. A moment where you felt connected, safe, close to God. Sometimes in the whirlwind of life, we forget what that kind of morning feels like. We forget how beautiful it is to begin the day not with a flood of to-dos, but with a quiet conversation, with the one who holds the day in his hands. But what if you could revive that memory not just once, but every single morning? Today, let's take a walk together, not through a long to-do list or another daily routine, but into something deeper, into a moment of quiet where God meets us, where He speaks peace into the chaos and whispers love into the noise. Because no matter where you are in life, no matter what season you're walking through, God's presence is waiting for you each morning, just like it always has been. So, let me ask you again, if you could revive one memory, what would it be? For many of us, it might be that moment of stillness just before the day begins, that sacred space of morning prayer. It's in those moments we remember who we are, and more importantly, who God is. Maybe life has pulled you far from that place. Maybe your mornings are full of alarms, fast coffee, and rushing out the door. Maybe prayer feels distant or even forgotten. But God hasn't forgotten. He hasn't moved. He's still right there, patient, loving, waiting to meet you in the quiet, because God's message has always been one of invitation. He doesn't force His way in. He gently waits for us to turn, to pause, to come home to Him again. Out in Psalm 143:8, David prayed, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you." Isn't that beautiful? He didn't say, "Let the morning bring me success," or "Let the morning bring me answers." He said, "Let it bring me word of your love." That's the kind of beginning our hearts crave, even if we don't always realize it. You see, when we start the day in God's presence, we don't just check off a spiritual box. We reset. We realign. We remember that we are not walking into the unknown alone. We're walking with the one who sees the whole day before we even open our eyes, and that changes everything. Think about a time when you did start your morning with prayer. Really remember it. What did it feel like? Maybe the prayer was simple. Maybe it wasn't long or fancy, but there was peace in it. That peace wasn't from the words, it was from the presence, from the stillness, from knowing that the God of the universe heard you and cared. That's the memory I want to invite you to revive, not for nostalgia's sake, but because it's still real, it's still possible, and it's still powerful. Sometimes we think of prayer as a task. But what if it's not a task at all? What if it's a gift? A gentle moment to say, "God, thank you for today. Thank you that you woke me up. Thank you that you're already here." Prayer doesn't have to be complicated to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be poetic to be powerful. It just has to be honest. That's all God asks for when we give Him those first moments before the phone, before the news, before the day grabs hold of us. We're giving Him our heart. And he meets us there. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You'll keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." That peace starts with a decision, a quiet one, a choice to trust, and trust begins in the morning. It begins when you open your eyes, and instead of reaching for your phone, you whisper, "God, thank you. Be with me today." It begins when you breathe deep and choose not to rush. When you pause to remember that today is a gift and so is His presence. I know some mornings aren't peaceful. Some mornings bring stress, noise, even pain. But that's exactly why morning prayer matters so much. Because it anchors you before the storm even starts. It grounds you before the world starts spinning. And it reminds you that even in chaos, God is still your peace. As so many of us are searching for calm, for clarity, for comfort. And sometimes the answer isn't out there in the world, it's right here, in the stillness with God. When Jesus was on earth, He often went away to pray. Early in the morning. He didn't do that to impress anyone. He did it because He knew the importance of beginning with the Father. If Jesus needed that quiet with God, how much more do we? Maybe you're thinking, "But I've tried, and I can't keep the habit." Or, "My life is too noisy for quiet mornings." That's okay. God doesn't expect perfection. He just wants presence. Even if it's only a minute. Even if it's just one simple prayer as you brush your teeth, or ride the train, or pour your coffee, He's there, listening, loving, waiting, and that's what makes morning prayer so powerful. It's not about the time or the place or the words. It's about the heart that says, "God, I want to start with you." So if you could revive one memory, let it be that sacred beginning, that first breath of the day when you feel His peace wrap around you like a warm blanket, when your soul remembers, "I'm not alone. God is with me, right here, right now, and maybe, just maybe, reviving that memory is exactly what your heart has been longing for all along. So maybe today, right now, your heart is stirring, not with pressure or guilt, but with something gentle, a longing to return to that still place with God, that quiet morning moment when everything felt a little lighter, a little clearer, and your soul felt heard. That's not just nostalgia. That's God gently calling you back. And what's beautiful is this: it's never too late to begin again. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You don't need hours of uninterrupted time or poetic words. What you need, what we all need, is a soft heart and an open invitation. Because prayer isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's not about saying the right thing. It's about being real with the one who already knows your heart. Maybe you're walking through a heavy season. Maybe you've been waking up with more worry than worship. You're not alone in that. Life has a way of pulling us away from peace. But that's why morning prayer is so life-giving. It recenters us. It reminds us who's really in control. And it invites us to lay it all down at God's feet before the day even begins. Think about this. Every single morning is a fresh start, a blank canvas. And God's mercies, they are new every single day. That's not just a nice saying, it's a promise. Lamentations 3:12 22:23 says, "Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning." Great is your faithfulness. What would happen if we started each day truly believing that? What if instead of waking up and feeling the weight of yesterday, we woke up and whispered, "God, thank you that today is new. Thank you that you are faithful." That kind of prayer can shift your whole mindset. It doesn't change the circumstances instantly, but it changes how you carry them. You're no longer carrying them alone. One of the most comforting things about morning prayer is that it gives you space to be fully honest with God before the world demands you to be strong, productive, or put together. You get to come to him just as you are. Groggy, anxious, hopeful, grateful, unsure all of it. And he welcomes it all. There's something sacred about the early light of morning, about meeting God when the world is still quiet. Even Jesus, in Mark 1:35, got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. He stepped away from the noise to spend time with the Father, not out of obligation, but out of need. He knew where his strength came from. And so do we. Maybe you've never had that kind of morning with God. Or maybe you had it once and life got too loud. Either way, it's okay. God isn't counting how many mornings you missed. He's celebrating every moment you come back. Every time you pause, breathe, and speak to him. He's there, ready to listen, ready to remind you that you're loved. When we open our hearts in the morning, we're not just preparing for a better day, we're aligning ourselves with a bigger truth, that we are deeply known and unconditionally loved. And when you begin from that place, things shift. Not because life gets easier, but because your spirit is anchored. Sometimes the most powerful prayers are the simplest. Lord, help me today. Jesus, be near. Father, I trust you. Those kinds of prayers can carry you through things that coffee never could. They fill the heart in ways nothing else can. And here's the thing. Prayer is not just talking to God, it's being with him. It's allowing space for him to speak back. Sometimes that happens through a verse that comes to mind. Sometimes through peace that replaces anxiety. Sometimes through a quiet knowing in your spirit that God is with you. You may not always feel something dramatic, but the presence of God isn't about feelings, it's about faith. And every time you choose to draw near, even in your groggiest, messiest morning, he draws near too. That's his promise. James 4:8 says, "Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you." That's why morning prayer is so powerful. Not because it's magic, but because it creates space for connection. Space to realign your soul. To start the day with trust instead of fear, with love instead of stress, with peace instead of panic. It's like a spiritual reset button. You don't need everything figured out. You don't even need the right words. You just need to be willing to come, and maybe that's where you are today. Maybe life hasn't made space for morning prayer in a long time. Maybe you've been waking up in survival mode, trying to just get through the day. But what if today is different? What if this is your invitation to pause, even just for a moment, and let God meet you right where you are? He's not waiting for you to be perfect. He's not asking for an hour-long devotion or a flawless mindset. He's simply waiting for your heart, for your presence, for your willingness to say, God, I'm here. Thank you for today. Walk with me, and He will. There's a reason so many of our most cherished memories with God begin in the quiet. Because in the quiet, we hear Him more clearly. In the quiet, our soul has room to breathe. In the quiet, we're reminded of what truly matters. So, if you could revive just one memory, maybe it's not the big mountaintop moments. Maybe it's not the dramatic answers or the loud victories. Maybe it's that soft, gentle morning when you felt close to Him, when you remembered that you are seen, you are held, and you are not alone. That memory isn't gone. It's just waiting for you to return, and when you do, you'll find that God's love never left. His presence never faded. His arms have been open all along, ready to welcome you back into that beautiful, quiet place of morning prayer. Maybe this is the first morning in a long time that you've slowed down enough to let your heart remember. Maybe you're just now realizing how deeply you've missed that quiet connection with God, not because someone told you that you should, but because your soul knows that you need it. And that's a beautiful place to be, because when we're honest with ourselves, we begin to see how much we've been carrying, how much noise we've allowed to fill the spaces where peace used to live. And the good news, God is never far. He's never distant. You don't have to work your way back to Him. You just have to turn just one whisper of His name, and He's already there. There's something so healing about that, about knowing that you're not starting over from scratch. You're simply picking up the conversation again, like a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, but who greets you with warmth, not guilt. God is like that. No lecture, no shame, just grace. That's what morning prayer revives in us. Grace, not just the kind we read about, but the kind we feel in our bones. The kind that wraps around our anxiety and says, you're okay. I'm here. We'll face this together. We live in a world that's constantly asking for more productivity, more strength, more answers. But morning prayer is that sacred space where God gently reminds you, you don't have to do it all today. You just have to stay close to me. And that changes everything. When you begin the day in prayer, it doesn't mean everything will go smoothly, but it does mean you're no longer reacting to the chaos. You're rooted in something deeper. You're not starting from worry. You're starting from worship, and friend, that matters, because life will still bring the unexpected, the moments that shake you, the texts that come too early, the decisions that feel too big. But when you've started your day in the presence of God, you carry His peace into all of it. And that peace protects you from being pulled under. Philippians 4:6-7 gives us this promise: do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. What a beautiful picture that His peace guards you, not just visits you, guards you, like a shield around your spirit. So even when your schedule is full and your to-do list is long, you've got something stronger. You've got a soul that's already been nourished. You've already heard the voice of the one who says, I am with you always, and somehow that's enough. More than enough, you begin to walk differently, think differently, react differently, because when your spirit is steady, everything else starts to settle too. That's what a revived memory of morning prayer can do. It's not just a sentimental moment, it's a return to the foundation, a return to truth, a return to love that never left. And maybe you're wondering, can I really begin again, even after all this time? Yes, yes you can. God's not asking for perfection. He's not keeping score. He just wants your heart. And if that feels hard to give, just start small. One deep breath, one whispered thank you, 1 minute of stillness. That's all it takes to start. Some of the most powerful prayers I've ever prayed didn't have fancy words. They weren't said out loud. They were quiet and desperate and honest. God, I don't know what to do. Lord, please help. Jesus, I need you right now. Those prayers, they're beautiful because they're real. And God meets us right there in the realness. You don't need the perfect setting. You don't need a sunrise and silence. If your mornings are filled with noise or chaos or tiredness, bring that too. God isn't limited to calm and quiet. He meets you in the mess, the rush, the overwhelm. Right there, in the middle of it, His voice cuts through. Peace, be still, and your heart remembers again, this is where I belong. You're made for connection with Him, not just on Sundays, not just in the hard times, but daily, in the sacred ordinary, in the moments when you're brushing your teeth, making breakfast, or driving to work. God is there. You can talk to Him then. That's morning prayer 2.it doesn't have to look like anyone else's routine. It just needs to be yours. Authentically, sincerely, imperfectly yours. And God will meet you there every time, because His love never runs out. His grace doesn't have an expiration date. And His presence doesn't need an invitation. It just needs your attention. So today, if you could revive one memory, let it be the one where you felt close to Him, where you remembered what it felt like to begin your day wrapped in peace, rooted in love, and led by grace. You can come back to that memory anytime. And better yet, you can live it again starting right now. Let this be your beginning. Let this be the moment your soul exhales. Let this be a return to morning prayer. And if this stirred something in you, if you're ready to take that step, even just a small one, I'd love for you to share it in the comments. What's one thing you're asking God to help you with in the morning? Or one way you're planning to reconnect with Him? You're not alone on this journey. We're all walking it together. One morning, one prayer, one moment at a time. And if this video brought comfort to your heart, consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. This space is here to remind you, you're never too far from God's love. Never too far to begin again. Remember, each day is a new mercy. Each breath is a gift. And with God by your side, every morning holds hope, always.